What's going on, everybody? It's Thursday, August 11th, and this is the College Football Daily. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and we have another big episode for you today as we inch closer to the 2022 college football season. It's Michigan Wolverines time as the defending Big Ten champions are looking to repeat once again this fall and get back to the college football playoffs. So we're going to preview what's to come for Jim Harbaugh and company, and to help me do that will be Zach Shaw of the Michigan Insider on our 24/7 Sports Network. So let's bring him in now. Zach, thanks for joining me today, man. Michigan, I'm very fascinated by this squad this coming season. So first, I have to get your observations on what you thought of fall camp so far for Michigan as we are now just a few weeks away from the start of the season.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of optimism, at least within Michigan and obviously the fans. This is kind of the first time in really a decade that they entered the season without any negative energy about the previous season, whether it's a loss to Ohio State or a bowl game loss. I mean, they're coming off their best season since 1997, but then they return a lot of players. There's obviously star players that they're missing, but a lot of excitement about the offense. They still need a quarterback, but I think there's a lot of excitement about all the people blocking for them and the players they're going to throw to. And then the defense, the coaches and players are raving about how deep they feel it is. They feel like other than maybe linebacker, every position is 5, 6, 7 deep, where even last season when they had a lot of success defensively, it wasn't necessarily there wasn't a second string. So I think there's a lot of excitement. Jim Harbaugh, his phrase is observe last season, try to emulate it, and then try to surpass it. So I'm sure every team's undefeated in the offseason, right? But this is a year where Michigan is excited, and then there isn't that kind of existential dread from the fans that, maybe it's going to be another season full of disappointment. So there's a little more optimism this year.
It's amazing. You mentioned the existential dread right there. And then actually, before we dive into a lot of the position battles and what the offense and defense are going to look like in 2022, you mentioned Jim Harbaugh, and I'm very curious about this. Now, it seems like there's a lot less pressure on the head coach going into this fall because he finally did beat Ohio State. He finally did win a Big Ten title and got to the college football playoff. Now, again, he mentioned the goals in Big Ten Media Days is to beat Ohio State, Michigan State, and win the Big Ten all in one season. But do you feel like there's a huge weight lifted off of Jim Harbaugh's shoulders going into September?
Yeah, I think he gets to go into this season doing it his way. People aren't questioning every single unique thing. I mean, people are still questioning him because he's Jim Harbaugh, and it seems like everything he does is a national headline. But it seems like the method to his madness. He gets a little bit more benefit of the doubt, at least from Michiganans, where, say if he says this is the best wide receiver room he's ever had, people actually believe him because he showed last season that when he sees a team that is really special and is capable of something, he can actually deliver it in terms of his coaching. So, he'll never give you the benefit or dignify your question about whether there's a weight off his shoulder, but it does seem like he's really comfortable with the culture, with the development, with the underclassmen kind of growing into the leadership traits that the upperclassmen left behind last season. So, don't know how he's feeling personally, but it does seem like he's got a lot more confidence, and it does seem like he gets a lot more trust from Michigan fans so far.
And based on that answer, it seems like the NFL thing in the offseason where he was in the running for the Minnesota Vikings job, that seems to be well behind everybody now, including Harbaugh and all the players, and maybe perhaps the administration as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I certainly can't, as someone who's cynical and has seen the way college football is and really pro sports are these days, I can't say he's going to be at Michigan forever. And they have to answer this question on the recruiting trail. You ask any of our recruiting reporters, they'll say, other teams are using that as a negative recruiting tool. So I can't say it's gone, but fans aren't mad at him. Players aren't mad at him. In fact, a lot of the players were excited. They're like, we want to go into the NFL too. So, it's certainly something that they support him for. So as far as the fan base and the players and the administration, I don't think there's any ill will toward him for looking. It's just a matter of continuing to produce and recruit and produce on the field. That's really what he's paid for, and that's what he's going to try to do this fall.
So Jim Harbaugh's specialty is the quarterback position, being a former quarterback himself. But, of course, everyone wants to know what is going on between Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. This has been a quarterback battle basically since McCarthy came onto campus last year. He had some playing time last year, obviously scored the touchdown in the Big Ten championship game. But this is Cade McNamara's team, and based on what I see from the outside looking in, it looks like it's going to be Cade McNamara's team, at least at first, and he's part of my Big Ten quarterback rankings in terms of at least the projections right now. But how do you see this quarterback battle playing out? And does anybody actually have an edge quite yet, as we are now just, 3-4 weeks away from week one?
Yeah, not yet. Jim Harbaugh, he compared it to a 10K run where, you're in lap 2 or whatever, and one guy will be ahead, but then the other guy, 5 quick strides and he's right there. So it does seem like this is more so than in past years, because Michigan always likes to do a quarterback battle. But I think this is a year where Michigan doesn't even necessarily know who its starting quarterback will be and doesn't have a guess. I think JJ, he had the shoulder injury this spring, so he didn't really get to. We haven't seen too much of them going head to head since his true freshman season, but I think he's got a very good chance. I mean, if you watch him play, he seems like the better thrower. He seems like the better runner. And so I think a lot of Michigan fans actually think it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. But I think that, you're not wrong to suggest Cade McNamara as a starter. Jim Harbaugh said he's going to start fall camp as a starter, and then they'll each get equal reps. And so it's going to come down to who moves the offense. It's not who has the best arm. Jim Harbaugh, his 2020 season, they had a great armed quarterback, and it didn't work because the offense didn't move, the players didn't respond, to his leadership, and so Cade brings a lot of interesting angles to the table where he wins, the offense scores, even if it's not like the prettiest throw. He understands what the right throw is. He understands how to avoid a sack or how to keep the offense moving, even if it's not the shot that the play was designed for, the 20-yard shot downfield, and so. It's going to be really interesting. And I think with Michigan's easy September schedule, I'm not even sure that it's going to be decided week one. I think this actually could be something where they kind of keep looking and keep seeing until someone emerges, because right now it's extremely close. I think it's the closest quarterback battle that Jim Harbaugh's had since he's arrived at Michigan. And you talk to players, talk to coaches, talk to guys, people behind the scenes. They're really excited about it, because I think they feel like they can win with either quarterback. It's just a matter of, is one of them going to create that separation and consistently deliver in practice to the point where they have no reason, or they can't afford to not start him because he's just that good. So we'll see. For now, it's pretty close, though.
And you actually basically just answered my next question, and just one more on it, which was when is the timetable for a decision? I mean, I felt we were maybe never going to see a decision until maybe kickoff during week one,
Right.
But you just mentioned non-conference games could be used to evaluate this battle further. So are you saying that you might not have an official starter between McNamara and McCarthy till the Big Ten opener?
Yeah, I think they'll name one of them a starter, but I don't think they're going to stop the other guy from playing. They play Colorado State, week one. They have their first time they're not playing a Power 5 team in non-conference since the 70s. If I'm the coaches, I'm using that as an opportunity to let both guys play a quarter maybe, or let both guys play a couple series, meaningful series too, not just handing the ball off and running out the clock, because, as much as you want to see in practice, sometimes what you see in games is more valuable. So who's actually producing for this offense? Jim Harbaugh, he said the main stat's going to be percentage of drives that end in points, whether it's touchdowns or field goals. And so that's going to be a factor. Matt Weiss previously was instrumental in helping Baltimore Ravens quarterback room get as deep and talented as it is. His thing is a lot. It's going to be a lot of fundamentals. It's going to be a lot of avoiding mistakes, but also continuing to progress as the season goes on. So I think it could be open. That's not from Jim. That's my speculation, but they really have an opportunity. I think either quarterback has them starting 3-0 with ease. And so if it still feels close come the end of August, well, maybe you let both of them have a shot all the way through that month of September before the big games start.
Boy, that's going to be fascinating. So one more on the offense here, and Blake Corum is back at running back. Donovan Edwards is also back in the backfield as well. But Jim Harbaugh mentioned that this is the best wide receiver group that he's had. And that's not verbatim, but it's one of the best he's had in recent memory. And, of course, they get Ronnie Bell back from injury as well. But he mentioned a few other guys. What's your biggest take on the rest of the offense with the running backs, which is still an elite group, and plus this now new-look group of wide receivers?
Yeah, they have 11 scholarship wide receivers, which in today's college football, I'd be curious how many teams can actually pull that off without someone saying, I'm out. I don't want to be a fourth string wide receiver for this team. I want to go transfer somewhere where I can get a lot of targets, a lot of reps. And yeah, they bring back everybody but Dalen Baldwin. So they they add Ronnie Bell. Cornelius Johnson was the leading receiver last year. Roman Wilson, I thought, had a few great games down the stretch. And then And then Andrell Anthony. I think those four are kind of the guys who can compete for number one. Andrell Anthony had a great game against Michigan State. Quiet freshman season overall, but just some of the ways he was able to make contested catches in the second half of last season. You just kind of, in the size and the speed that he has, I think all three have a really legitimate case to be the number one wide receiver. It's something, Michigan fans have had long debates about. We've had it on our podcast and in our articles. It could go in any direction. And then they've got, a lot of specialty guys. Darius Clemens, great testing numbers. AJ Henning, he had that touchdown against Ohio State last fall, and it seems like every time he touches the ball, he could take it to the house with the speed and the elusiveness that he has. And then, it doesn't always get talked about at every school, but tight ends. They have 7 scholarship tight ends. They bring back every tight end from last season, including Eric All, someone that Michigan coaches think is one of the best tight ends in the country, and probably has an NFL draft future if he continues his trajectory. He had 430 yards last season and closed the season really averaging around 50 yards a game. So, yeah, they've got a lot of guys to throw it to. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they mix it up without specializing guys, without putting guys into, okay, when you're on the field, we're running this play. And so it's going to be interesting, one, to see if someone steps up and is maybe an 800-yard threat, because it seems like they've got a lot of guys who can get 400 to 600 yards this fall. But I'm sure Michigan is hoping that someone steps up and is one of the best in the country at their position. So lots of guys to throw to. And then, yeah, you mentioned Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. We've seen Corum. He almost, if it's on Haskins wasn't on the team last year, he probably runs for 1,200 plus yards. Is probably viewed in the same breath as Ohio State's TreVeyon Henderson. He can do the big plays. He can run up the middle. He can catch passes. Really elusive guy. Good testing times. And then Donovan Edwards, former 5-star recruit, catches the ball like a wide receiver. You look at the degree of difficulty on his catches last fall. He's a special. Jim Harbaugh called him a once-in-a-generation kind of talent in terms of his versatility on offense. He threw a 75-yard touchdown pass in the Big Ten title game. So he's someone that, they've got a lot of ways they can be creative. They've got a lot of different players they can put in different positions. AJ Henning can line up in the backfield. They've got tight ends that can line up in the slot. I mean, they can be really creative. And Matt Weiss, the offensive coordinator, called it an embarrassment of riches. And so now it just depends on how far they can take that. How creative can they get? How aggressive will this offense be compared to last season, where it was really more just move the football, can kind of control the pace, control the tempo. They've got an opportunity to be a really electric offense. And so I think the big thing will just be managing those snaps, seeing who steps forward, and then utilizing the talent that you have to put the most points on the board as possible.
Zach Shaw with me on the College Football Daily. Zach, got to ask you about the defense, and the biggest question probably is, how do you replace Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, both guys in the NFL now, two elite pass rushers? That, to me, is probably the biggest question on the other side of the ball for Michigan. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's really big. I mean, they were maybe two of the top 4 or 5 edge rushers in the country last season, and they're both gone. And Michigan coaches they've been straight up. You're not going to replace Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, one for one. None of these edge rushing candidates could fairly be expected to do that. And so you try to replace it with an overall improved defensive front, defensive pass rush. On the inside, Mozzie Smith returns. He had a very strong finish to last season. Chris Jenkins did as well, to the point where he was almost a de facto starter as a redshirt freshman. Those are two guys on the interior that can be really successful. And then on the edge, I mean, they have size, they have strength, they have guys who were talented recruits. Mike Morris is someone 6'7", long-armed. He can kind of play inside and outside. He's got some good weight to him. Julius Welshoff, similar size, similar frame to Morris, and he's got really good testing times. 4.68 40-yard dash, 10-foot 5-inch broad jump. So those are two guys who I think can really allow them to play NFL style, where maybe one of your edge rushers is big and 275 plus pounds and can really hard guy to move, but then can still get into the backfield when time comes. And then they've got some intriguing guys. Taylor Upshaw, quietly very productive as a pass rusher last season. I think the only reason people don't know his name is because they had Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo. You look at his efficiency when he was out there. He was very good at getting to the quarterback. Jalen Harrell, quietly, I don't think it gets said enough. He played more snaps than Ojabo did in the Orange Bowl. So that speaks to the trajectory he's had and his ability to stop the run. He's great at reading, run option plays and stopping, rushers in their tracks. And so, Jim Harbaugh and other coaches have said this, that they can't replace Aiden Hutchinson, they can't replace David Ojabo, but can they have a better defensive front, a better, are they better at stopping the run? Are they better at getting to the quarterback this season? They think there's still potential for that. And I think the key is just understanding that it's going to be depth. It's going to be, you replace that production with 5 or 6 players. That's actually a lot more doable than expecting someone to come in and get 15 sacks like Aiden Hutchinson. It's a loss. Every college football team has this. They lose star players, and then you try your best to replace them. And I think Michigan's kind of doing the communal approach to replacing those two, at least on the defensive line.
Zach, I'll get you out of here on this one. It's kind of a two-parted question here, but I'm looking at Michigan as a whole, and based on the predictions I put out for the Big Ten across the board, I have them at 11-1, losing to Ohio State, and probably maybe sneaking into the college football playoff if things break right, or you get to an elite bowl game as well. So, two-parter here for you. Where do you see this team finishing in 2022 before we even hit September? And how does this team match up with Ohio State? And basically, it goes hand in hand. If they can beat Ohio State, I would imagine you're probably going to say a repeat of the Big Ten title for the Michigan Wolverines this year.
Yeah, I'm toying with that 11-1. It's a lot to ask, with all the different players that they're replacing, but the schedule does break really nicely for them. They get Michigan State and Penn State at home. They play at Iowa. That's no easy place to play. Very good Michigan teams have had their national title hopes ruined at Kinnick, but at the same time, the way they beat Iowa back in December makes me wonder if they really can get to that Ohio State game 11-0. I do not see them stacking up well against Ohio State at this stage. There's too many questions for Michigan and too many answers that are already there for Ohio State. With the offensive firepower they're returning, they have their own questions to address. But I think Michigan, I think I want to see what this defense looks like, see what this pass rush looks like, because as much as the ground game was successful against Ohio State last fall, I think Ohio State's offense is going to be better, and I think they're going to be better prepared for Michigan this time around. And so I think they're going to have to be able to put a lot of points on the board or really get to CJ Stroud, really put pressure on him. So as of right now, I'm kind of with you. 11-1. I think there's a chance they drop, either to Michigan State, Penn State, or Iowa. It's just hard to go 3-0 against those 3 teams in a span of 4 or 5 weeks. But I'm sitting around 11-1, and I think Michigan's got the talent to meet all of their goals. And so it's just a matter of filling out those little question marks here and there, or these weak points that departing players left behind. But the talent is there. I saw they were number 6 this week in the coaches poll. I think that's a foundation that they can work with.
No doubt, and hopefully we are sitting here in November around Thanksgiving weekend just for the drama, 11-0 Ohio State, yes, and 11-0 Michigan. That would be quite the epic theater right there. Zach Shaw joining me on the College Football Daily from the Michigan Insider. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. Be sure to give a follow to our Michigan coverage as well at 247sports.com. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe this show on YouTube as well. And, of course, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever the case may be. Zach, one more here. Where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, _ Zach Shaw on Twitter. That's my main social media. So it's busy this time of year, though. Lots of updates from fall camp and everything.
The best Michigan coverage you can get anywhere right here on 24/7 Sports. Zach, appreciate the time as always. For Zach Shaw, I am Nick Kosko saying so long. This has been the College Football Daily on 24/7 Sports.